Tonight we will go deep into the realm of the unknown and question everything as we search for the truth. We will explore the possibility of countless phenomena within the ultra spectrum, and together we will learn that it is all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and it is a live stream broadcast. If you have a question, send me a super chat or become a YouTube member. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association. Take a seat, relax, get ready, and welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Today is Thursday, March 31st, 2022, and I, Ryan Stacey, am your host this evening. I'm a licensed private investigator, a citizen journalist, and the Director of Investigations for the Experiencer Support Association. I'm the former National Chief Investigator for MUFON Canada and the former International Field Investigator Trainer for MUFON in general. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. To super chat, click the $ next to your name in the comment box. And if you are in the observation deck, we are in the Experiencer Hall. Go on and put in your comments and questions in the chat box. Tonight's theme is meditation, consciousness, and mind-body connection. Our guest for season 4, episode 11, is Giselle Denisse. Giselle is a natural healer and certified as a Reiki Master teacher, holistic life coach, as well as a yoga and meditation teacher since 2003. She's a lifelong experiencer, having contact with extra-dimensional beings since the age of 3. Having empathic abilities since birth, Giselle has always been able to sense spirits and other entities in a room which haunted her all her life and made her fearful. During 2014, when Giselle experienced a profound healing performed by the extra-dimensional beings, her life changed completely as her fears were eliminated and her abilities to heal others were enhanced. Interesting. I like this. Since the time until 2020, Giselle also offered support groups for other experiencers to share their concerns and have someone listen to them. Interesting. I also like that. Fun fact, I read these for the first time, and I like that. I like this. Okay, so you can find her at www.giselledenisse.com. You can see that on the ticker on the bottom there, and also at thehealerslayer.com. So Giselle, put on your tinfoil hat. We're about to go down a rabbit hole. How you doing this evening?
Hello, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So I want to get into how you got here because there's a very interesting story with that too. But the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do an icebreaker. So this icebreaker, I'll just play the little jingle here. 1 second. So this icebreaker is brought to us tonight by Cece, so our question is, what is it? If you could describe the human experience in a single sentence, what would you say?
Oh, okay.
Good question.
The first word that came to my mind was difficult. Difficult and confusing.
Okay.
That's my answer.
Okay, that's good. That's good. If I could describe the human experience in a single sentence, what would I say? I would say probably the same thing. It's a lot harder than it looks.
It is.
Taking care of all these dark souls and entities and things like that.
Absolutely.
It is tough. It is tough. I agree with that. And actually, Sharina, if you're listening, I actually think I just shared something that was similar about that with starseeds. So it's kind of good. Well done, Cece. Well, thank you. So my first question for the evening is, why are you the way that you are? And what I mean by that is start from as early back as you want and walk me through your life that brought you to this moment while you're sitting here today. And then from there, we'll see where this goes.
Okay. Well, my story began either when I was 2 or 3. I don't remember exactly the age, but I remember the time frame. So that's why I gave it 2 or 3. But what happened to me at that age, the memory was somehow put away in the back of my mind. And I did not remember until 2003, when all of a sudden I had a profound memory recall, and it was just, it just shifted my life completely. So I used to have contact, like face-to-face contact with beings that were had no body. They were just energetic. They had a humanoid form, but no physicality. And I have two conscious memories of being with them face to face. I know that I've had other contacts with them, but they were not, while I'm awake. Like you and I are talking right now, it's been through, when I go to sleep. But so they've been with me really all my life. And when I remembered, in 2003, I was 33 years old. I remember I had just turned 33, and I was washing dishes because I had just fed my two little kids, right? I had given them, I know it was a weekend because we were home having lunch. And as I'm washing the dishes, I went into this trance. I was on automatic, washing dishes and looking out the window, and boom, one of the memories came, and it took my breath away. And then within a 5-minute time span, the second memory came, and I literally had to sit down because I was like, how can anybody forget this? And well, that turned everything around for me, because that began my journey into the spiritual world. So I went and started learning about yoga and meditation and spirituality, and then that led me to Reiki. And so here I am today. That Reiki turned into, I still do Reiki today, but now it's a little bit more personal, like more of my own method, I guess, and still energy work. And then in 2014, 2015, I had just a profound healing. I used to be afraid of the dark. I used to be afraid of anything that was lurking in the dark, just all the paranormal stuff. And during this time in 2014, 2015, I went to bed, went to sleep. The next morning I woke up. I remember it was 7:15 a.m. I, just did my regular morning routine, and I felt different. I didn't know what it was. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, like, what is different? And all of us, as soon as I asked that question, I hear from this side, you don't have any fears anymore. You lost your fears. I literally turned around because it was right there. And so it took me a moment there, and I said, okay, well, we'll see tonight. And tonight came, and I wasn't afraid. And then the next day, and my fear was completely gone. And as soon as my fear was completely gone, all these other abilities started to come in, one after another, which is what I do now, my healing now.
So that was 2015, right?
Yeah.
When that started. So we're in 2022. What happened between now and then and now?
So in 2012, I had started a wellness, not spa, but a wellness center. And, I used to do yoga, meditations, and Reiki and all of that. At the same time, I was experiencing things in my house, all kinds of things, including doppelgangers and like all kinds of crazy things that I had no explanation for. So this is prior to me being healed. So I was still afraid. So it was affecting me, because I thought I was losing my mind. But I still continued on my spiritual path, helping people and all of that. I even went on online to find a group that I can join to talk about it. And I just couldn't find anything. So then I said, all right, well, I'll create my own. So I did. And the response that I got was just crazy. I think 22 or 23 people showed up on the first day.
Wow.
And they all had these wonderful stories. And so I stayed with that group for a while, and I learned a lot. And I learned how I was, just by sharing my story, how I was able to help others. Not only me helping them, but of course they also helped me, because I started connecting dots. Mm-hmm. And so then, during that time until now, things just began to unfold. It's like peeling an onion. It's like you never get to the middle. It just more keeps coming. Just when I thought, okay, I got this. This is how this works. It's like, nope. Here comes another layer of craziness to add on. And I mean, I can't complain. I've been learning ever since, all these things that happen. But yeah, from that time until now, I have found that there's a connection between ghosts, spirits, all that, and ET. And the reason I found out, I really found out it was between 2015 and 2016, how I found this out. Well, that was like the icing on the cake. It solidified, confirmed my theory, because it was at night, I was sleeping. I decided to go to the sofa because my husband was snoring so much. So I go to the sofa, I lay there, and I'm just laying there.
That's nice of you. Most people just kick them out,
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not even going to bother. Let me just go to the sofa. I went to the sofa, and I'm laying there. And my house is never dark. I always have, those rock salt lamps there throughout my entire house. So it's never pitch dark. So I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, I feel like someone's watching me. And how when you feel that, you kind of like just turn to the direction where you feel it. So I did. And right there by the window, by the curtain, I can see that there's someone there. And I'm kind of looking, and I'm doing this, and I'm like, what is that? And then I can see half of the body. It's a little gray, a little like the ones you see on TV. And he's staring at me. And I said, I could see you. Because it felt to me like he didn't want me to see that he was there. But he wasn't solid. He was translucent. So I can see right through him. I can see the window behind him. I can see the curtain. And I was very calm, very nonchalant, very calm. And I'm like, I could see you. And he doesn't respond. And so then I say it, but in my mind, how come you're not responding? And then I'm thinking, okay, this guy can hear me think, because I know he can, and he could hear me, but why isn't he responding? And then just like that, I said, oh, forget it. And I went to sleep. Like it was nothing. The next morning I wake up and I'm like, why did I do that? Why didn't I get up and at least go touch him? Why was I so nonchalant about it? Like, it's just
there's a bit of comfortability. You've been doing it for so long. Subconsciously, you knew you were, it wasn't a threat, maybe. I don't know. I was just very puzzled as to why I was so calm about it. And so then that was my confirmation, how there's a connection. As soon as I lost my fear, before that, I could still feel the presence in a room, because I'm an empath. I was born that way, and it never left me, So I've always been able to feel that, but because I was afraid, I would kind of like push it away. This time,
I could be cooking and I could feel the presence behind me entering the room. And in my mind's eye, I can see if it's male or female. I can't see exactly what it looks like, but I can feel the difference between male and female energy. And I can tell how tall it is and all that. And I remember that at one point I was like, wait a second, this is not a spirit. This is different. And it was ET. I don't know what kind of ET, but it had that energy. So one thing that I've learned is that just like we have names to identify each other in the spirit world, and I'm not talking about like spirit, say in the ET world, but the ones that don't have physicality, so their energy, they don't use names like we do. They all have a like a signature, an energy to them, like we do too. Like we each have our own energy signature. We just don't know it. But in that realm, that's how they identify each other by that energy. And so that's what I picked up on, an energy signature that I did not recognize. And so I started, thinking, okay, wait a second, there's something here. And because it happens so many times, I'm like, okay, wait a second. It's not always a ghost. It's not always a disembodied human walking around, like a lost spirit. It's not always that. It's actually ETs. They have the technology to cloak themselves. They have the technology to make themselves invisible to us. Some of them have a cloak, kind of like, something black that they put over them, but it's energetic. It's not, physical. So it's some kind of technology that they have that they use on people.
It's interesting because the cloak thing is common in some of the experiencer cases I've investigated, and I get a variance of features described on what these individuals look like. Some transparent, some reptilian, some humanoid, but the cloak, is a very common thing, especially in the drawing practices and stuff like that. With transparency, with me, how is it possible? Like, is it interdimensional? Are they transmedium in that sense as a being, or is it a hologram? Is it technology? Like, where do you sit on that? Is it more of an energy transfer in which you're able to see within, what we call the ultra spectrum, so in the ether, or is he or she being broadcasted in this world right now through technology of a hologram or something? Like, where do you feel with that?
I think it's both. It depends on the for lack of a better word, race that you're dealing with. For example, the beings that I grew up with, you can't compare them. Say, for example, you can't compare them to reptilians or the Greys or anything like that. They're a whole other ball game. They are in they're seventh density beings. So at that rate, everything is energy. As far as like the Greys, at least the ones that I have seen, like the one that was transparent, I don't know if that's technology or if that's they're somewhere else and they're sending like
it's hard to tell.
I don't know.
I use the term technology and hologram as an analogy to make it simple and easy for the nuts and bolts in science community to be like, this is how you can comprehend ghosts if it's technology. But if it's not, and it's energy, which is really hard to prove in a material sense, being a combination of both, or it would be technology if a device was being used to manipulate it to change their state of being. But if that's just the way that they are, if we take in consideration your abilities to sense these things, you have empathic abilities, psychic abilities that were enhanced over time. You just might be seeing them in a different dimension, which is why why it appears that way. That's just non consulting advice on things that I've seen before. I'm tracking everything that you've documented said so far. I'm just doing a little bit of a timeline here, and I find it's interesting at 33 because that's a significant number. Was that number at all significant to you?
Not to me, but when I started telling my family about it, that I come from a Catholic family, and of course they say, "Oh, Jesus, that's they." Like I don't follow the Bible or anything, but apparently at 33 something happened to Jesus, and so they always say that, but no, to me it was just so random, really.
So personally, for me, like from what I can understand, what might have been my first experience that I'm thinking of might have been like 27, and then from there I had another experience around 30, and then when I really started to tune in that there might be something on a psychogenic level, it was 33 for me.
Interesting.
But I'm also a Freemason, and 33 is kind of a symbolism, and there's also a bunch of things going on at that same time. But that's why I kind of resonated with that, thinking, and so I'm tracking that in 2003 is when you remembered your past events.
Yes,
right. I got
when
you.
they all
did
came
a
back.
very good explanation of everything that happened since 2003. But what did you remember?
Oh, of course. So
yeah.
Okay, so this is the memory that is so ingrained in my brain, like it feels like it just happened yesterday. So I was born in South America, in Uruguay, and at that time I was living with my grandparents. My mom had come here to the States, and I remember that where we lived, there was the houses over there are completely different than here. So like the hallway had no ceiling. So it's part of it's the hallway and then the backyard. So it's all one big unit. And I remember playing with, I think it was 2 boys and another girl. We were just running back and forth, just being little kids. And when we got to the back, the hallway turned to the left, and then it opened up to the backyard, and all the way down the hall there was an apartment there, and then there was a wall separating or giving privacy to the apartment that was there. And I remember standing there and seeing someone peek, like over to the side of the wall. And so that when I saw that, I kind of stopped and I started looking to see who was there. Then it peaked again and it went back, and I noticed, oh, what is it? Like, who is it? All I saw was white. So I'm thinking that it was someone with a white hood. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. And then it started to it brought its leg out and then brought it back in. And then I'm like, so all the kids are next to me now, and we're all watching this, and this thing is playing with us. So what it wanted us to do was for us to mimic it. So we started mimicking it, so if he took his arm out, we put the arm out and the leg and so on. And then as an adult, and I look back, I understand what was happening. At the time, I didn't. All of a sudden, half of the body shows. Right. And we all look at each other because, okay, this is not a human being. Because we can see, even at that age, we can see that there's no body. It's just, just light. A humanoid, but light. And but for some reason, we weren't afraid. We weren't afraid at all. And we were just standing there. And then next thing you know, we didn't see him walking towards us. Next thing you know, boom, he's right in front of us. And I don't know what must have happened, because all I remember is, next thing I know, all I remember is knocking on the door at my grandparents' house. which was very strange because they would never close the door if I'm playing outside because they were very protective.
Right.
But that's what happened. So when I went inside and I told them, I didn't know what to name this thing, so I called it a mummy because it was the only thing that came to my mind at that age. So for my entire life, that's what the name was, the mummy.
Okay.
And so then, of course, they didn't believe me. They thought, it was my imagination or whatever. But of course, there were, 3 other kids with me. Nobody believed us. Okay, so then fast forward 2 years, when I was 5, I was already in the States. And I remember I was sleeping in the living room because we were in I went to live with my mother, and we were about to move to a bigger house where I can have my room. And for a week, I slept on the sofa. And I remember opening my eyes. It was already morning. It was daylight. The sun was out. As I opened my eyes, I see that being walking towards me, except this time it was a female energy. Again, you can't tell if it's male or female because there's nothing. There's no features in the face or the body or anything. But I can tell it's a female. And so I looked at her, and she kind of just like tilted her head, and then she turned around and she made me understand that I wasn't going to see her again, right? And then she started running towards the kitchen, where I think I don't remember if it was a sink or a stove there, but it was the kitchen. And then she goes like this with her arm, and the wall became like, how like water, and she went through it, and then it solidified, and that was that.
Transmedium movement of some sort. That's interesting.
She must have had something in her hand. I don't know, but I remember her doing this, and yeah, and I was just very calm, and I didn't understand what was happening, but yeah. So then somehow that memory was just put away.
So you have 2/3 of what I call the paranormal hat trick. You have entities, you have psychic abilities. What's missing is a UFO sighting. Have you ever seen a UFO?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I don't see solid UFOs. I could tell you that only once in my life I saw a solid object that was observing me outside my window, which I don't even know what it was. I wouldn't classify that as a UFO because it was literally this big. It was copper-ish looking, right?
How old were you when you saw it?
Oh no, this just happened. I was getting ready.
Okay.
I was on the computer, which my desk, it's in another house. My desk was by the window, and I felt I was being watched. So I look out the window, and right there in the tree that's right in front of my house, I see this copper-looking ball floating. And at first I thought, okay, that's a balloon or something, but you could tell it's metal because of the way the sun was reflecting, bouncing off of it. And I'm looking at it, and it's kind of like moving because, it was windy, so the tree was moving, and it's kind of moving so that it can look at me. And I'm like, is this really happening? Is this thing really looking at me? And then it must have been there for probably 5 minutes. It moved back, and then it just shot up like super fast. For a moment before that, I thought, okay, it's a drone, but what kind of a drone is that? If it has like nothing, no propellers, no nothing. It was just a ball. So that went out the window.
The color is interesting too. It's common, like copper, close to like a milky orange type vibe. Yeah, that seems to be a trending color. I don't know if I have an example.
Like a penny kind of thing.
Yeah, so like this, like this object here.
Oh my goodness, that's it.
That is it?
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, that's interesting. So this is this is just to emphasize This is my book here. This is just to emphasize one of the UFO cases that the Canadian government, Royal Canadian Air Force, had chased in one of these declassified documents. So that was just my visual representation of
Wow, it was that color, but
what
it
that
was
might
tiny.
be.
It was this
Okay.
big. But yeah, as far as, solid things, that is the only one. Everything that follows me, because they follow me, and I have proof. I have my husband, and I have people that I show this to. Are so the picture that I send you.
You want me to bring that up?
Yeah, because yes, you see how in picture 1, that's the original picture. Picture 2 is me just moving things around so to see, like the different lights. But the UFOs that I come in contact with are like that light.
Now, walk me through you taking these pictures. So
Okay,
what did you see and made you take this photo?
No. I was actually taking that picture of the futon because I was just going to sell it. I didn't need it anymore. So I was taking pictures of it. As soon as I I took it with my phone. As soon as I put my phone in front of me to like get the futon in the picture, I got the name of the entity that I just told you about from my childhood come into my mind. But I didn't pay any attention. I was just focused on taking the picture so I can post it. And then, you know how you take a picture and then you look at it to see if it came out good? When I went to look at it, that was there. And I was like, that's strange, because to the left of that picture, there's a window. But it was very early in the morning where the sun wasn't even hitting my window. So, like I checked everything to see what can possibly create that. And then I'm like, okay, this is weird, because as soon as I'm going to take the picture, I get the entity's name in my mind. And then I see that. And that is exactly what the entity's body looks like, except in a humanoid form. Right here is in
what
this
was
picture.
The entity's name?
Ashra.
How do you spell that?
This is how I spell it, but ASHRA.
Oh, I just want to make sure I'm saying it right. Ashra.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ashra.
Interesting. Okay. So the second picture, is that the same as number 1, just with a little bit of alterations to kind of bring out the object, or?
Yeah, I wanted to see what, I don't know. I was just fooling around with it. But then what was interesting is that in the second picture, do you see how it's really strong in the center, and then there's like an aura around it, and you could tell it's moving in the forward direction.
Sorry, something happened there. You still there?
Yeah.
Okay. So the second image, yeah.
So that the second image is just me playing with it, but the actual image is the first one.
Okay. Do you remember if you used the flash at all?
No flash.
Yeah. So then there's, so if you're no flash, it doesn't look like there's anything reflective in there. If there was a light,
flash because it's daylight.
Yeah, no, I'm just ruling out all the possibilities of that being known things, right? I mean, I don't have all the stuff in front of me to verify and confirm as being 100%, but it doesn't look like or appear as if anything in here in that picture frame might be causing that to show up. So what's interesting about that is it kind of, I'm seeing it move from left to right. So there's a little bit of movement that was captured there. When you do the alterations on picture number 2, you can still see that motion blur a little bit better. And then there's a focus on that. So if you were using a flash, the flash would have been, that should have been a little bit higher up, mainly in the middle. Which it's not. So interesting. I don't know. I have no idea. I've seen a lot of that in many different places, and there's a lot of explanations for it. A lot of people say, dust orbs and things like that, or lens refractions and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
is there a light above you at all, pointing
Well, there
down?
is, but it was off.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
it was in the morning. It was daytime.
Yeah, no, I get it. So that is bona fide something that shouldn't be there for, whatever reason.
Yeah.
And that is physical evidence for you that confirms and validates what you've been seeing, maybe through your mind or I don't want to say through your mind, but subconsciously and consciously in the past.
Yes.
So how does that make you feel when you're able to capture something like that after a lifeline, of those types of experiences?
Well, it's funny because not too long before that, I remember I was sitting in my living room thinking, I like to see them again, like physically see them again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having this mental conversation. There's no no one's talking back to me, but I'm just putting it out there. I like to see you guys again. Can you make yourself visible? And I just let it go. I just said what I needed to say, and then I just moved on. And then shortly after, I take this picture, and it's there. That's why I made that connection, because right when I was about to take the picture, I get the word ashra in my mind. So to me, it was so random. I wasn't even thinking about that.
I got to interrupt you for a minute. We just got a super chat from Gary Voorhees. Hello, sir. Good evening. He runs a investigative group called UAPX, and I haven't seen him in a while. And good to see you, man. Thanks for that donation. I hope all is well. Sit back and relax. If you have a question, that's what the super chat's for. So that's awful generous of you just to say hello. But if you got a question, throw that in there, and then CC will put that up for you, and then we'll ask it for you. But thank you so much for doing that. You rock. All right. So, okay. I'm just trying to think, because I got my investigator cap on. I don't have, I like to dive into these things and be very analytical about it. Super busy just trying to share some love. Yeah, no, peace with you, buddy. Thank you so much. Stay in touch. The website is almost done, and I'll be reaching out to you soon to share some of that stuff. Your path, I'm trying to be careful here because I don't know. I haven't investigated. I'm learning this for the first time. But the pattern is in comparison to other cases I have investigated. So I just want to state on that. I'm not validating that you're the same, but it sounds very similar to the patterns in which I vetted out and ruled out a bunch of things as being possible explanations when there's nothing left. So this pattern and this behavior and these the way you're describing these entities or whatever we're calling them are very common and shared amongst other experiencers. So I can at least tell you this, that you are not alone. Mm-hmm. You are not the only one who has experienced these types of phenomenons in a similar pattern in a certain way. But unfortunately, I'm still trying to learn why we are the way that we are and what makes, why you. And why you have this ability. Now we can speculate and say, you were always an empath, you were born that way, and then so there's that star seed, and then there's that, indigo, and all those kind of theories that you could subscribe to as far as associating where this is coming from, because we really don't know where we came from. But then you have this lineage of enhanced psychic abilities and development and things, and then you're on this path of spreading light, and you're creating experiencer groups to find answers for yourself, and then here you are on the Experiencer Support Association. So there is some sort of guide that I can say is very interesting about your life in that, and I'm curious. And this is where the science hat comes on. I would encourage you to make a report about all these other things so we can get the data and the experience your parts, so I can compare you to others who have reported as well to kind of see if we can do some matchmaking or something like that, because you can share. So with your support group that you've created, is that still ongoing? Do you still do that?
No. Something very strange happened one day. I'm in South Florida, so going to the beach is a common thing on, during the week. So I decided at one point, it was just a handful of us. We all got together and we went to the beach, and it was one of those things that they're like, you know what, let's try to make contact. Let's us make contact with them, not the other way around. So I'm like, okay, that sounds really good. Let's do it, right? So I think it was a total of 6 of us. And and it was a new moon, so there was no stars in the sky, which is perfect, right? I mean, no stars, no moon, so you can see the stars in the sky. And so as we're waiting for the sun to go down, we're just chatting. We're all sitting in a circle on the sand, and we're all chatting. Right behind us is a not a boardwalk, but where people walk. It's made of cement, but and then right behind there's restaurants. So just giving you a picture of how busy it is, right? There's a lot of people there, and so as we're sitting there waiting for the sun to go down, we're just chatting, and all of a sudden, my peripheral, I see a light. So I turn around and I see this helicopter flying towards us. Here is not unusual to see military helicopter or any helicopter. There's a lot of things flying in the air here because we have airports everywhere. So, but this helicopter caught my attention because it was so pretty. I knew that it was military because of the shape. It was a different shape. Not that I know anything about, military things, but I could tell the difference, And then, so I said out loud, I said, what kind of helicopter is that? Because even not only the shape, but the light on it was different. And I thought, wow, it's such a pretty helicopter. So I said, what kind of helicopter is that? So one of the guys that was there with us, I think he was military at some point, and he turns around and he's like, oh yeah, he goes, that's military, and says whatever, kind of helicopter it is. So I'm like, wow, how nice. So the helicopter comes, he's flying really low, right? He flies over, we're probably, where we were sitting, probably, I don't know, 30 steps to the shoreline. This helicopter went right above the shoreline, probably 10 feet above us, I could say, and just stayed there hovering. And this is going to sound ridiculous, but this is what happened. We're all sitting there, and I said, that's weird. What are they doing here? And the doors were open, and I can see the guys inside. They're all dressed in black. Like, I don't see their faces because they all have that stuff on them, like they have a black thing. They're all dressed in black. I can see their combat boot, everything. And I look at them, and I'm at the people I'm with, and I'm like, what are they doing here? We're not surprised. Again, we see military things around here all the time. And one of the ladies says, oh, they found out what we're trying to do. And I said, no, they didn't. We're nobodies. Why would they even bother with us? And then she goes, well, why else would they be here? And they're looking at us. There must have been 1, 2, 3. There was like 5 guys inside that helicopter, and they're looking at us. And then within, I don't know, 3-4 minutes, they flew away. So I found it to be very strange. We continued on our night, right? Well, it wasn't until a few months later in the future that I reached out to MUFON, and I had a regression with one of the MUFON investigators. And
what year was that?
Hold on. That was, I want to say 2018 or 2019.
So after your you remembered after your Einstein moment, washing dishes, and you had a memory.
Yes, but I actually reached out to MUFON for something totally different. And we were just chatting, waiting for, because I wanted my husband to get a regression too, because we had this very weird experience. And so we went for that. And as I'm waiting for my husband, I'm talking to the investigator, and I don't even know how the conversation started, but I brought this up and I said, oh yeah, the helicopter and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, wait a second. He goes, why would the military be there to interrupt your meeting, your gathering? I said, I don't know, but this is what happened. He goes, no, think about it, Giselle. And I'm thinking about it and I can't connect. He goes, did you feel the wind when the helicopter was there? And I said, no. And then I was like, wait a second. No, I didn't feel it. From the propellers being so close, we should have felt the sand hitting our faces, but we didn't. Nobody. Our hairs didn't even move. So he goes, that wasn't military. And I said, what was it then? He goes, that was them. And I said, what do you mean them? He goes, that was them. You just saw them as military, but that was them checking up on you guys. And I said, oh my God, we did make connection, but we didn't even know it because I don't know. We were all so calm about it again. Very calm about it.
There's perception there too, right? Like this person believes that that's what had happened, but I mean, and then you're being told that. So now that you're told that and you're thinking about it, do you think it was them, or are you just thinking that now because someone is telling you that it's them?
No. Until he told me that it's them, I didn't think it was them. I thought it was military.
Right. So it could still be military is what I'm saying. You just implanted a thought in your mind because of what they believe. You're the one that saw it.
Yes.
So,
and I wasn't alone.
No, and that's interesting too, because you're not alone. Other people are witnessing, other people are seeing it. Military is a good explanation. It's what we think. It's why we're doing this disclosure thing, to find out what military does know, because it could be known technology.
But it looked like it. It looked like it. I mean, everything.
Well, and if they're in on it, it would have to look similar and be familiar to be known to be one of ours instead of one of theirs, and in terms of like whether it be a threat and things like that too. So, I mean,
but because of that day, I was really turned off because I was like, okay, I don't think I want to do this way. I don't want to, because of my kids. I didn't want any trouble, Right. I didn't want to cause any kind of trouble because of them, not because of me, because I'm not afraid, I wasn't doing anything wrong. But we ended up stopping everything.
Okay. What about CE5? I see a comment from Gary. He wanted to know if you're interested in the whole CE5 stuff. There's a group in Central Florida, so he's from Florida, I think, as well.
Oh, that would be awesome.
And they meet once a month. All right.
That would be awesome.
So, Gary, put your you're getting a bonus because you put the super chat in there. So put your email address or your website in the comments, so we can read that out for you, and then you can connect to that CE5 group since you're local. So thanks for tuning in, man. All right. So you haven't done a CE5? Sorry.
No, but I am able to connect with them. And I've actually taken my husband to the beach, again, on a no moon night. And I've showed him, okay, those are stars, those are planets, those are them. And so when it's really them and it's not military, you could tell it's very easy because they can hear your thoughts. And if you ask them, show me that it's you, they amp up, right? If you ask them, can you amp up again, just to make sure it's you, they'll do it. And so I was able to show that to my husband. And for the first time, he was blown away by it.
Yeah. Instant reaction then, right? You're thinking about it and then you see a response, right?
Yeah, like I literally think about it, I call them, and then there they are. And it's the same, it looks like that picture, the light.
Have you, I'll just bring that up again since I have it here. Have you, what about seances or Ouija boards or things like that on the paranormal side? Have you ever used
No, I
any
don't like
mediums like
those.
that? No.
No, I don't like that.
Yeah. But is it, so when we were talking about ghosts and extraterrestrials possibly being the same thing, I use seances and Ouija boards, that method to compare that to the CE5 method, because these are different mediums, because the
Right.
host is the constant in this part. The people that is conjuring up the thought and putting the energy out and thinking about that group thought to bring in the activity. The board itself in the paranormal spectrum, whatever it's marketed as for, to be used or whatnot, is just a tool to help visualize, to reach into the consciousness. CE5 done without that, but with yourself on a beach, nice comfortable setting, listening to some tones, meditation, same thing, because you're connecting to the same place because you want to get the same results. So how do you know, like, the risk assessment here, how when you get contact, how do you know that is friendly contact or negative contact? Because you're drawing attention to yourself, like, and you're in this darkness, this light all of it comes up, this mosquito of a extraterrestrial or UFO sees it and starts to come to it. And, do you have any
I could
fears or
feel it.
concerns around it being a bad thing,
I
or
could
is it
feel
always
it.
good? Okay, you
No,
feel it.
no, I could definitely feel it. I have encountered negative entities.
Okay.
I have. As a matter of fact, my last negative entity that I've encountered was in my trip. I went to Italy with my family, and on my first night there it was. There's a difference between how they feel. Like, remember I told you how they have an energy signature, even if the entity has physicality, which a lot of them do, they still have that energy signature that you can pick up on. And as a matter of fact, the real negative ones, they send out an energy so that you can feel fear.
Right.
So that's something that they do. Now, when it comes to like UFOs, because you don't know who's inside, it's the same thing. To me, I could only say what my experience is. For example, that round copper looking one, that did not feel good to me. That felt negative, intrusive. Whereas the other ones, the ones that are made of light, that ball that doesn't have any physical, like the ship is not physical. So far, to me, those have felt positive.
Now, thinking biologically, if it felt negative to you, do you think it's negative in kind, or is just your body is just not wanting that or not absorbing that type of energy?
No, I just think that they have a different agenda. They don't have our highest good at heart. Not, because energy is energy. It's neither good nor bad. It's what you do with it. And so that's how I see it. That's how I feel it. Their agenda is different than mine.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you go into a room and you can really feel the room. You can tell that someone's having a bad day. You can feel it, but it's not necessarily your fault that they're having a bad day, but you can feel it. And then you would decide whether or not you want to leave that room because you don't want to feel that energy, or you would take some of your positive energy, transmute that, and try to make that negative energy into positive. So have you ever been in a situation when you're interacting with these beings and you're deciding, you notice negatives, like what do you just avoid it, or do you try to convert it?
No, now because I'm not afraid, I don't avoid it. Each event, each incident is special all on its own. But for example, the one that I encountered in Italy, it was, when I say I lost my fear, I lost my emotional and mental fear. that primal fear that we have in our body to save us when there's danger, the fight or flight instinct. I still have that, my body still has that. So in Italy, it was like 2:00 in the morning, and my husband had fallen asleep. My kids were all asleep, and I was just in the moment, feeling like I was appreciating where I was. So I opened up the windows and I was looking out at the sky from my bed, just being in the moment. And when all of a sudden my body starts reacting, and so, I'm like, what's going on? Why is my body reacting like this? It started to tense up, and, it felt like I wanted to run. And so I realized, okay, this must be the fight or flight instinct that we have. And so I focused on it, and I realized, okay, there's something in the room, and now I could feel it. And my eyes went directly to where it was coming from. Now, my physical eyes, I couldn't see it. I could feel it. I could see it in my mind, and it's cloaked. I can't see what it looks like, but I can tell the height. I know it's masculine. I know where it's standing, but I can't see it with my physical eyes. And it became really intense, and my body is reacting very intensely. Like my hairs were all standing up. And so I got to the point that I was like, okay, I said, whatever you are, you need to leave my space. And it wasn't leaving. And so then at that point, I said, Michael, I need you to take whatever is here, take it away, right? It usually works. Every single time it works, except for that night. As I'm waiting for that energy to go away, I don't know what happened. Next thing I know, I'm sitting up on my bed, right? Next thing I know, I am not in my body anymore. I am someplace else in Italy, right? But it's daytime now. And I'm standing there, and there's a masculine entity next to me. He lets me know that he's there to teach me something. And he goes, what's the thing that's in your room is over there. So he points in front of me, and then he says, go ahead and look at it. So I walk over there and I look at it, and it's the most hideous ET I had ever seen. So it looked like a gray, only that it was taller, but he had a mean look. Like he was angry, And I'm looking at him, and I was like, ooh, right? Like he's so ugly. And while I'm there looking at him, he is literally sending fear towards me, right? And I can feel that. And so I said to him, it's all telepathic, by the way. I said, well, I'm not afraid of you, so you could stop now. And he just, looked at me, and he stopped. And then I just turned around, went back to the guide. And he's like, he goes, good job. He goes, you see? And I'm trying to look at the guy, the entity that's next to me. I can see what he's wearing, but I can't see his face. His face is completely cloaked. I cannot see. It's gray, just like in a picture when you blur it out, that's what it was. And I couldn't see it. But then as soon as he said, okay, you did a good job, I was right back into my body. And the entity was completely gone. Now, I don't know if that really happened or if that was a training of some sort.
Still trying to figure that one out. But I mean, it's all part of it. What's important to know is that you have the ability to get to this place. Interpreting what it is that's in this place is a whole other department. My role is just to make sure there's nothing normal that could explain this, and so far there's not. This isn't normal behavior, but it is normal behavior if we accept the possibility that we're evolving and we're more powerful than we're led to believe. So we got to take our commercial break, but before
Mm-hmm.
we got into that, with your thoughts on the support group, you're not doing that anymore, but have you been looking for one? And if you have you heard of Experiencers Anonymous, which is a group that we have?
I heard once. I learned about you, and I went on your website, and I was like, oh, this is really nice. I wish I would have found you way back then. um, but right now, what I'm doing is I will be starting one,
Okay.
another one, because there's still a lot of people that are going through things and they have no one to talk to, because you get ridiculed. I've been ridiculed left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody like believes you, but so I want to give
No,
them that support.
that's good. No, I was just going to say that, like, it's good that you're doing that. People need that. If they feel comfortable, they trust you, as long as they're getting it off their chest, is what I've always said.
Right.
Ways of expressing it like that. So what I was going to say is that at the very last commercial on this turn is our commercial for Experiencers Anonymous. And then when we come back, we'll talk about that, and then and see how that makes you feel in comparison to what you've done and what you're trying to do, and maybe we could help you have a little Experiencers Anonymous group in your area too, because that's some things
That would be nice.
that we're thinking about doing as well. All right, so we're going to pause right here, but we will continue after a message from our sponsors. Remember, if you're listening to the audio version, head over to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association so you can see the video that goes with the audio, including my new haircut. And it's the first time ever, I think, on this podcast I've done a show without wearing a hat. So, it's probably, it's a cool thing. So remember, you're listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and we will be right back.
It's your business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. Just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
Welcome to the observation deck. a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind virtual platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus, just like you would in real life. First, you install the application and design your very own unique avatar. Then you're free to explore the various areas of the campus at any time from anywhere. There's so many areas and activities to choose from on the platform. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, a large expo hall, a movie theater, a nightclub, an art gallery, and even a beach. Come attend a conference, or take a class, or hear a lecture. Meet new friends and interact directly with presenters. It's all right here on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Where in the world will you go?
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today by going to tesacan.org/EA. That's TESACAN.org/EA. Welcome back. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Did you know we have a private community chat for our members on our YouTube channel? If you become a member, you will get bonus content like exclusive videos, including bloopers, behind the scenes, and members-only Q&A. Also, if you've ever experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrials, dogman, or any other paracryptid, head over to tesacan.org/reporting system. With the others who have already reported, be that example that proves that we are making a difference. And if it wasn't for those reports, we would not be able to do what we do. And for that, we thank you. I'm still here with Giselle. And how you doing?
Very good. Glad to be here.
Good. Did you catch that last commercial? Did you?
Yes, it's very nice. I like it.
How does that make you feel? What's the feeling you get from that? I was always wonder.
A very good feeling, comforting. I like it.
That's what I want to hear. And the reason why I'm kind of alluding into that is to kind of emphasize that we are on the same path. We want the same thing in terms of where we're coming from, where a lot of people are experiencing these phenomenons, not understanding what it is. We don't have answers. We have a bunch of people trying to get answers. We hit these pitfalls and we have these challenges and these struggles and trying to interpret the same information. But yet there's, even with our audience, there's a variance of people listening, hoping that one of us is going to reveal the answers and solve it. But the thing is that we're trying to emphasize is that the more people that come forward and share their experiences, whether we believe them or not, in terms of, in general terms, the more information we'll have, the more data that can be measured, and then it'll kind of push towards having a universal understanding. And with the research and what we're trying to do, in terms of understanding why you are able to connect and others aren't, or others can, and methods and things like that, is just to try and encourage people to, instead of thinking that it's a poltergeist in their house, that maybe it's a psychic ability and it's them who's responsible for moving the objects, not some paranormal Hollywood phenomenon that may have been manifested or created. So with your support groups and things like that, how do you feel about talking about it, but then actually putting it on text and paper and reporting in general? So you reported to MUFON. You had an experience with that. I don't think you've reported to Tessa yet. But what is your overall feel on putting it pen to paper versus talking about it?
Well, it's funny that you ask me that because I'm currently writing about it. I'm writing my experiences in a book form, which I've been contemplating for a while now. But, I used to think, who's going to want to read about my experiences? Until I met all those people in the group that I helped and helped me, of course. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm okay with putting the pen to the paper.
And now, if you were to go back in time through your events when you were afraid, which was, I guess, pre 2014, would you have put pen and paper then?
No, because then I thought if I did that, it would become a reality, and I was afraid of it. Before that, it was like taboo, because see, the thing is, I grew up having all these abilities, and the people in my life, like the grown-ups in my life, they weren't having it, at least not to the extent that I was. And so they didn't understand this. So I basically had to learn it myself. And I think that's where the fear grew. It was just basically ignorance.
What you say fear, though? What were you afraid of, though? What is this rooted from, this fear?
Well, because I was so open, spirit, disembodied beings, like the souls that get left behind, that don't cross over. They all saw me. They all saw me. They, the good ones and the bad ones. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, leave me alone. And it was an ongoing thing. I used to think back then that every house I would live in was haunted. Then I thought, no, it's me who's haunted. And then I realized once, I started learning everything, I'm like, oh no, I'm probably psychic. And that was the progression.
And that's good. You're healed. You're solved. You don't need Tessa. You don't need us at all. You already figured it out. That's good. That's the point, right? Like, a lot of people do. Your journey is fascinating. I mean, and it is very supporting of others. And the fact that you're writing is good and it's great. We do book reviews as well. CC can mention that to you afterwards, where we can help you with that once that's written.
Oh, that's great.
We also are a publishing company too, if you need assistance with that. Yeah. Canadian too, if you haven't noticed.
Yes.
And things like that too. I see Lisa in the comments as well. Giselle, she one of the first, the last person I investigated for and Move On, and the first person I investigated with Tessa. And she just recently published her Experiencer book. And Lisa, I am reading it right now. I'm actually going through it, and I noticed a lot more cases in there that you didn't share with me, but I'm reading it in the book, and I like it. So that's an example. So what I want to show you is that you're not alone. There are other people that feel the same. And that's the whole idea of the Experiencer Support Association, is to bring everyone together. I have your websites queued up. I want to go through that so we can talk more about the work and the professional stuff that you've done. But before that, just want to share the little, what you've already told me before we started, but how, I think this is perfect timing to bring this up, but how did you find us?
Well, so I have this thing that when I make dinner, I like to listen to something that will help me grow or that I can learn. So I went on YouTube to find something from one of the channels that I follow, and the Leak Project had you on. And I don't know what caused me to click on it. Something triggered me to click on that day, and I did. And I started cooking and I started listening, and I'm like, oh my gosh, wait a second. There were things that you were saying, and the way that your process of dissecting things, I was like, oh, this guy's for real. And so I'm like, okay. And then I went on your website, and then I started watching some of your interviews, and I liked the way that because of your background, your investigative background, it was just different, and that's how I found you.
I appreciate that. I mean, but there's, and that's why I go out and do those things to spread awareness. And the reason why I wanted you to say that is not to hear all these nice things about me. Thank you, by the way. But was to bring validation to the point that others like you are looking for something like this, and it's important that we all of us. So I as much as and I'll take this moment here to talk about the rest of the team. There's also Serena Dracis, there's Cece as well. We have Dave Petrella in the comments. Sylvain Rochon is coming to the channel soon as well. We have a lot of other people behind the scenes. My wife as well assists. A lot of people are responsible, including the experiencers and all the reports, for me to sit here. So as grateful as I am to hear that you're following me and coming here, I just want to take a minute to say that, to thank the other people that helped make it easy just for us to have this conversation. Because if it wasn't for that team, if it wasn't for these experiencers and all these other things, and as I say with the part on the break, after the break, is I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the encouragement and the support that I get and validation for the work that I do. I still don't know what the hell's going on.
I don't think anybody does.
But it's the only thing that I can comfortably recommend or prescribe, if you will. I'm not a doctor, but like is that we need to have more smaller groups in more areas, and have more data come in and things like that too. So I will task Cece to talk to you about those opportunities afterwards.
Absolutely.
And maybe we can help enhance what you're already doing, and maximize your reach, maximize your growth, and help more people.
Great, I appreciate that.
Like that. Yeah. So let's talk about your work. So you gave me 2 links. So this is website number 1 and website number 2. So which one do you want to start with?
So this one, the GiselleDenisse.com, that is, I guess, my professional one, because the other one is more of my hobby. This one here is where you can make the appointments for treatments, for sessions. I also teach massage therapists, continuing education in Reiki. So that's in there too. The other one though, that's a little different. The other one is where I share my knowledge in herbs. It's what I inherited from my grandmother. So I incorporate all of that here. Is my little hobby.
All right. Well, let's break it down. We need some things to talk about here. So I'm looking at this for the first time. So Reiki, my wife is a Reiki healer as well, and Cece, she does Reiki, and so does Serena.
Oh wow.
So I mean, how do you find Reiki for you? How do you?
Reiki found me, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So in 2003. Because of what happened that I told you, I was going to, I think I needed some crystals or something. And I went to a crystal shop right by my house. And it just so happened that the owners there were holding a Reiki circle, and she invited me. And at that point, I didn't know what Reiki was because that was the beginning of my journey. And as soon as the woman laid her hands on my head and I felt the energy, I was blown away. I'm like, I need to know what this is. And that's how it found me. And I learned, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I've done Reiki a few times, and a few different ways that my wife tries to do it. She has a very unique approach, and it works quite well. My first take with Reiki at the beginning, there's a video that I have on the channel. It's called what is it? Yeah, what the fuck is Reiki? I think is what it's called.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that? Okay, so that's kind of like my whole investigative, like, what is this? This is what I know about it, and then like this isn't real. But then you see my glow at the end of that, after that session. I couldn't lie to save my life. I could feel the energy transfer. I can feel all those other things too. So I do know that the energy transfer is real. But for me as an investigator, that's human. I'm not seeing extraterrestrial. I'm not seeing paranormal or ghosts or any of that. I'm seeing human ability to do something divine, godlike, if you will. So like I'm finding a lot in my research that there's a lot of things that we can do that are considered taboo and paranormal. But I think it's just Hollywood. I think it's just a way to distract us from being these super beings. So remote healing, I'm interested in that. So you're doing Reiki, but from the distance, or
yes. So originally, when you learn Reiki, you also learn how to do Reiki from a distance, right?
Okay.
And I was doing that back then, except in 2014, after that incident, my healing, things changed a little bit, because now my consciousness goes to where the person is. And I remember the first time it happened, I didn't know what was going on, but I found myself in this woman's place. Now, I never see, when that happens, I never see the actual physical person. I see their energy body only, which is, it's just made out of light, but in a humanoid form. And so I do the healing like that. But I remember the first time it happened, I described to the lady what I saw, and she confirmed that I was correct. And then it happened again and again and again. And I said, okay, so this is my new way of healing now. And so that's my remote way of healing. I actually see, I don't go to people's houses anymore. That was a spontaneous thing that happened. But now what happens is that I see the person in front of me, and I'm able to do the healing. And then I also have my guides there with me who actually help. And it's very interesting how that developed.
Well, it seems like you were meant to be. It's kind of a shoe-in that sense, with the way that you've been encouraged in the things that you're seeing, and now you're helping. Maybe that was the plan all along. And it's good. It's good to see, because I always think that everybody has the ability to be more than what they are.
Oh, absolutely.
And I enjoy knowing that people are taking that ability, trying to do something, and to enhance, right? Like, and try to help and try to better the future or the next generation and things like that. We got a lot of pain, we got a lot of suffering, and for many different reasons. And there are a lot of healers and many different divisions for many different reasons. And it's good. It's a very thank you for doing what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you. Another thing that I do now, which is also new since 2014, is, and it happened spontaneous. I was in the middle of a Reiki session, and as I'm working on this woman, all of a sudden I see an entity standing there, and this entity is hunchback, and I can tell that at one point he was human, and now he is stuck. He hasn't been able to cross over, but he is attached to this woman, right? Now, she didn't come to me for that. She came to me because her back was hurting, because she was literally starting to hunch, right? So she came to me for that. So I'm doing Reiki. And then I see this, and for some reason, the information came all like in a download, all at once. So when you get a download, you get all the information, the visuals, everything, right, all at once. And so I understood that he was human at one point, and he did not cross over, and he remained here earthbound. The longer a spirit remains earthbound, apparently they forget how to find the light, so that's where they go looking for people like me, where we're so open. And so he had attached himself to this woman, and the effect was that she was actually picking up on his his vibe, his energy, and becoming hunchback herself. And I remember I felt such, a huge compassion for this being, because even though he was there causing, something negative, I felt, an immense amount of compassion for him. And so then I called Michael and I said, Michael, take this being to the light, and set him free. And I wasn't saying anything. This is just me doing my thing. And then once I was done, it was so crazy. This lady says to me, she goes, I felt you taking something so heavy. She goes, I felt it coming from my feet and leaving my body through my head. She goes, you did it, didn't you? And I said, yeah, but what else did you feel? And she goes, it felt like, she said, it felt like a man. And I said, that's so interesting. So then I told her what I told you. And she says, oh my God. She goes, I can't believe it. She says, I felt it. She goes, I feel lighter now. Now, if you see her now, her back is straight. It's the craziest thing. So that was my entrance into that part of the healing. So now I am able to remove attachments from people, whether they are, earthbound spirits or, there's so many different types.
Okay. That's good. That's a handy tool to have,
That is.
Because I mean, like, I don't, I mean, it's about transferring the energy too, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of humanistic explanations as to why we feel the way that we feel. Even our own thoughts can make us really feel pretty dark. So even if it's, I don't want to say hocus pocus, but I mean, even if it's not connected to a divine entity, we are still, as human beings, changing the thought process to stop pain and suffering.
Yes.
So I mean, we need more of it, and this is what we consider pseudoscience as well. It's not widely accepted, but it's used.
Exactly.
It's holistic and all these other things, apothecary and things like that from the past and things as well. So I noticed that you were a writer as well. So you do little short journals. Is that what this is?
I do. When I get inspired, I write a little here and there.
Okay. Our new website will allow freelance writers to contribute content as well. So
neat.
Just thought I'd throw that in there. But so if I click on that, I did a right click because I was curious as to what the what these are. What the heck is it? It's a tincture. What is it?
Oh, a tincture?
Yeah, what is that?
So it's you can make tinctures from just about any herbs, or in this case, it's an elderberry. And so I decided that, because I have always been against the pharmaceutical. I don't like synthetic anything. I rather go natural, because nature provides for us in everything we need. So I decided to start making my own remedies. And like my grandmother, that's what she used to do. So I started with the tincture, with the salves. I'm working on some other stuff currently, but for right now, this is what I have: the tinctures and the salve, and I also make some candles every now and then.
Okay, very talented. Good stuff. All right, so that's cool. Very cool. So look at that. You do all this and all these other things, which is good. So Stacey, if you want to put the websites in the comments, that'd be good. We do have these websites on the ticker below. If you guys do want to take a closer look, I'm just taking a peek here. Cool. So this book, let's talk more about this book that you're writing.
So this book is I don't have a name yet. Okay. I think that has been the hardest part, is coming up with a name. But I'm basically just taking the reader on my journey, how I got here today, and what I've learned, because, I'm not the same person I was, say, 5 years ago. It's been an evolution. I could tell you that I can't say that I started waking up at a certain time, but I could say that in 2012, I started waking up to our reality, what the things that are happening. But I've always known that I was in some kind of a sleep, and so that waking up has come in waves, which, as a matter of fact, when I reached out to you was because, okay, there's something that is happening, which I haven't heard anyone else say. And if it wasn't for my husband experiencing it in another, like at another time, I thought I was going crazy. So I was alone in my bathroom, and all of a sudden I see a light going on, and of course I turn around, and what do I see floating right there, like probably a foot off the ground, was something like this size, right? With yellow light coming through. It was an opening that just opened in the air. And I'm looking at it. This thing was looking at me, and it just opened up. So I was there for a while looking at it, and I'm like, okay, what is going on? And then poof, it went away. Of course, I run over to my husband and I tell him, hey, this is what happened. And he's like, oh my God, Giselle, you're crazy. No. He goes, no, that didn't happen. That same week, he's in our office, in our home office, and I'm in the kitchen with my son. And we're having a conversation, and all of a sudden my husband comes into the kitchen, and he's like pale. I'm like, what's going on? He says, I think I had an experience. And I'm thinking, ghost, ET or something, right? And he begins to describe, he's like, I was working on the computer. He says, I'm there looking at the screen when all of a sudden I see a light go on. And he goes, and I look, and right in front of me, like literally right in front of him, a light this big, a rectangular light this big opens up in midair and stares at him. And he's just there staring at it back to see what's happening. And there's yellow light coming through, like the light inside is yellow. And then he says he was there for, I don't know, a minute, 2 minutes. And then he got up and he left, and that thing was still there, And of course, when I went back, it wasn't there anymore. And I said, I don't know what that is. I go, I've never seen a portal in that shape. And I have seen many portals, but I've never seen it in that shape. And then with light behind it, I said, and then I go, so I asked him, well, what did you feel? He's like I was being stared at. So there was that, that thing that you feel like someone is watching you. And then, so fast forward a few, I don't know, this happened in February. I got up early. My son is an EMT, so I was going to make him breakfast before going to work at, I think it was like 6 a.m. And I decided I had baked a bread the night before. So I took the cutting board, I took the bread, and then the knife, the bread knife. And as I was about to start cutting, I'm like, oh, let me just wait until he at least comes to the kitchen so the bread doesn't dry up, right? So I took like probably 6 steps to the kitchen table. I sat down there. Next thing I know, I am like I think that I must have, frozen or something, because when I came back, I saw movement. I looked, and there was a portal right in front of, like, between my kitchen and my family room. There was a portal, a huge portal, and I can see someone go through it. I saw the leg. I didn't see the body, but I saw the leg, and I'm like, what the heck is happening? So I'm completely confused because I was only there for 5 seconds, sitting there, no time passed, and all of this happened. So when I get up to go back to the counter to cut the bread the bread knife was gone. It was completely gone. We searched and searched the entire, even the garage I checked. For 3 months, it was gone. And then one morning, my husband and I get up early. I was about to make coffee. I opened up the drawer where my knives are. And there, my knives are all like this, straight, right? Well, they put the knife back like this, cross, so that I don't miss it. It was intentional. It was intentional. And whenever those things happen, all the electrical stuff, everything, like the TV would talk, the lights would start flickering, but in a pattern. And I'm like, okay, this is not poltergeist. It's not poltergeist, because I've experienced poltergeist. That was not poltergeist. There was an intelligence there. And then when they took the knife, it was very, very intentional for me to see. They don't make mistakes. For me to see the leg, that was not a mistake. That was intentional.
Yeah. There's a little bit of intent there. I would agree with you on that, because they wanted you to see something, maybe follow, or they know, or maybe they didn't, and they needed the knife for something, and they took it, they borrowed it, and they returned it because they're nice
I don't
dudes,
know, but that's my research now. That's the research I'm doing now.
I always lose my keys or lose my wallet sometimes, and then I find it somewhere else in weird places that I don't remember. And then the easiest, then I end up finding out that in my mind's eye, where I'm looking and scanning for it, someone else had just moved it, a few inches over to the right, and then like there's those times where you're looking for things. So you're absolutely certain within that 3-month period of time you didn't find it and put it there.
You have no idea how I had my entire family looking for it.
Where?
So I took a picture of how they put the knife back, because
Because I always try to think of the how, right? Like what, so it did happen that this, like, how would that happen? Like, the amount of energy it would take to move the object unseen and then take it and leave it and then put it back without anyone knowing, if it's not a human being.
But I don't think it was spirit. It didn't feel like a spirit or a ghost. It didn't feel like, I can't say it didn't feel ET, because I don't know what they all feel like, but that leg that I saw, that was human. That was a human leg. I don't know what was attached to that leg because I didn't see the body, but I did see from the knee down.
Now, the portal that you saw, like, what was behind it? Like, where was the portal again? Like, in terms of the room?
It was in the air, just, floating. But there was no light. It was just a regular, normal portal. How everything becomes warped, and then they go through, and then it goes back into the center, like it gets absorbed, like that. Like just a regular portal.
The reason why I was asking this is sometimes commonly people are reporting portals in closets or in small archways or openings and things like that too. So I was just trying to gauge if that was something that happened with you, but it's different. So that's just something I wanted to see if it's different. I mean, again, it's the why, it's the how, it's the what. Do they even know that you see them? Do they even care that they see you? Like, are they able to enter into this dimension, do whatever they need to do, and then get out and go and do it? Like, are we even important to that? I mean, like, when we talk about your experiences and stuff, you see them, and then maybe they don't say anything because they're like, oh, do they see me? I don't want to be seen. And there's a lot of I always try to give the benefit of the doubt to the captors, or in the sense, like, maybe they're just as afraid of us as we are afraid of them in terms of trying to understand it, because the portal works two ways, right? So if we look at the seance part, the Ouija board as an example, we're in this dimension and we're meditating, we're doing whatever we need to do to channel and bring that energy and to ask for a reaction. We're getting that reaction. What would that look like in this dimension? If someone in the other dimension did the same, what would that look like here?
That's
I
true.
thought that maybe the portal is an example of that. Someone on the other side, I'm actually just coming up with this off the spot right now. Like that,
that's really good.
It might be as I always think with the meditation analogy, in terms of when you meditate and you send thought out and then you're looking for thoughts to come back, it could be human beings doing the same thing. But what if we're seeing these portals that people are asking for, like, give me a sign, right? It's just not happening in front of them. It's happening somewhere else,
Right.
And that just could be just a result of what that looks like from the other side. So if we create and open up a portal and they see that, how would they respond, right? Human beings, different dimension, all these other things that look strange, it looks weird. So that's why I kind of want to get to the point to kind of have a bunch of like-minded people that are able to manipulate space and time to be able to produce this, so that way we can, do the stranger things and go through and see what's actually there. But there's so many things that are happening. Where in your heart of hearts, with everything that you have gone through, you've mentioned you think you know a little bit about Jesus, about him being 33. So you mentioned, so you're not super religious from what I'm gathering.
No, I'm not religious at all.
You mentioned Michael. I'm assuming Archangel Michael, with in terms of that, but there's a connection to Christianity and Catholicism. So I'm suspecting that maybe you started that way and then became something else. And so where are you now in terms of belief as to the source of not just you, all of this? Where is this all coming from?
So it's interesting that you asked that. First of all, let me clarify Michael. Michael, I call him Michael because that is the name he was given by us humans from religion, right? Okay. And so, we know him as an archangel. But in reality, he is a higher frequency being, okay. Just like the ETs that we know. I'm not calling him an ET per se, but he is a higher energy being. And his job is, to protect and that kind of stuff. I've never been religious, even though I had to, do the whole religion thing as a kid, because of course I had to listen to my mom, but I've never been religious. I am very spiritual now. I'm very spiritual. I do connect to the other side, and I respect it, even the negative, because they do exist in their own consciousness, and what we call negative is really just a different level of consciousness, one that we have passed already, and therefore it's lower than us. And therefore, that's why we call it negative, but it's not. It's just energy. So where do I stand with religion or with God?
What do you believe is the source of all of this?
Right. So no, I don't believe that Jesus is God, because I've heard that before. I don't. I believe that he is a high frequency being, that I do. And as far as God, I have a problem with the word God, because of how it has been, tainted, dirtied, so I call it source. And the reason for it is because, how people have had near-death experiences, and then they end up on the other side and they have their experience. Well, I had that experience, but I didn't die. I just went to sleep and woke up, and I was in someplace else, and source, what I now call source, was there presenting, like it just showed up, and the amount of love that I felt, there's just no word to describe it. There's just no word. We call it love, but it doesn't even come near it. And that's when I was taught, when I was shown our connection. We're all connected. Everything that is alive here on this planet and outside of this planet, we are all absolutely connected. And I was shown the connection. It was like a web of energy and the connection. And it was the absolute most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. As a matter of fact, I remember thinking, I don't want to go back. I want to stay here. And I was confused because I was like, well, I didn't die. I just went to sleep. And then, I was told, no, it's not my turn. I have to come back. And so that's when I came back and I opened my eyes and I was in my bed. But that's what I think God is. It's source.
Okay. Well, that's good. No, it's not. You're not on trial or anything.
I know. But
I'm investigating. I'm learning. I'm experiencing. Right. I'm trying to, and I'm helping. This is good, validating, because we can come back to this video. You can come back to this and look at what you've shared and things like that too. And there's validation that you're not alone. You're amongst friends no, this is good. I mean, everything has to exist and not exist at the same time.
Yes.
So what, it would take which is interesting with Michael as an archangel, and that's specifically to label based on the Holy Bible. Sorry, I threw my bookmark at you. Based on the Holy Bible, but with the investigations, you might remember this from when I was on the Leak Project, how we was talking about removing the labels. And we have to look at the characteristics of these beings and these wings and things and how it's drawn. Then you start to have these connections of Anunnaki and Sumerians and also Sumerian gods and things like that too. That connection back to source, which is Anu, the original marking and engraving of God. So what it all comes down to, though, at the beginning is we were created for some reason. That reason may not have been given to us, but yet we're allowed to be the way that we need to be in order to do these things. And when we do positive happens, so in the absence of God, meaning we don't have the answers, we're kind of just left with ourselves. So I'll kind of wrap up in the sense before we do our final segment here, which will totally be a 360 to everything we've just been talking about. But it's good that in the absence of God, meaning confirmation in the existence of it here as making the decisions now and then, it's good to have people like you and others to continue to put God-like love and light into the world. So I want to say thank you once again for creating a group to help other people like yourself, providing resources and the ability to heal people. It's very positive. And whether it's connected to the source or connected to aliens, connected to ghosts, it doesn't matter in the terms of that.
It's all energy.
It's all energy, but you're not afraid anymore. And
No.
The reason why I'm focusing on this point is because I spend a lot of time talking to people who are afraid, and it gets better. It's just trying to get them there without saying, I don't believe you, or that didn't happen, because that doesn't help.
No.
And when I do my investigations, I may not always believe that what has happened to you is what has happened to you, but I believe it happened. And so we need more resources like that. So again, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So before, in case I forget, tell everybody where they can find you.
I am at GiselleDenisse.com or at thehealerslair.com.
Okay, perfect. On social media at all, anywhere?
I was kicked out of Facebook.
Why were you kicked out of Facebook?
I was kicked out of Facebook a couple of years ago because I was speaking my mind and sharing healing things with my followers. And I was given, I was put on whatever jail, and then I did it again. And, they just shut me down. And I said, you know what, I'm done with Facebook. But I think I might have to go back to Facebook because that's where I had a lot of reach. I just don't like that they, curb my enthusiasm,
Well, if you do end up writing for us in the future, CC and I are the editors. So, we'll support that depending
Thank
on what
you.
it is. I don't know what it is though. I don't know what guy. There are rules. We got to follow.
No, it was nothing bad. It's just that, everything we talk about. I was sharing it with my followers, but
Yeah, I know it's opinions and stuff, and that's the thing with social media. So, social media hates this segment. It's called "Sorry, Not Sorry." All right, so here are the rules. I'm going to ask you a question. I haven't done the segment in a while. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to time how long it takes you to answer it. It's not a skill testing question. After that, I'm going to share an alleged fact from a very controversial conspiracy theory, and then we'll have a conversation about whether or not we could believe it. It's a social experiment. Okay.
Okay.
Do you accept the challenge?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. With all the knowledge and experience you have had, what shape is the Earth?
Round.
Oh, that was quick.
It's a sphere.
It's a sphere. Okay. So the globe Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's fine. So the reason for this is because I spent a lot of time talking to people in the flat Earth community, and who do believe that the shape is different than what we're told, by NASA and Canadian Space Agency and things alike. They do have a lot of evidence and a lot of research that kind of supports their sides of the theory. But just like ghosts and just like UFOs, we can't really prove one way or the other because I'm not an astronaut, and as an investigator, looking at the facts and looking at the people, I'm on the fence because I don't really know, and we do spend a lot of time in that. So this flat fact, as I call them, apparently, according to passages in the Bible as well, and that's another thing too, is a lot of people reference the Bible as the reason why extraterrestrials and paranormal exist. The same book is used to defend the shape of the Earth and things like that too. But the purpose of the conversation is to determine whether or not we could accept the possibility that the Earth has water above it, and not space, water. And the reason for that is when we look at the stars close with a camera, it does appear to look like it's underwater. So let me see if I have a picture here.
That's interesting.
So maybe in the future I'll try to find a way to do that. But the picture on where my finger is, it's a star that's viewed up into the sky. And the assumption is because that looks similar to water, that we are, space is actually water. Now, not a scientist, not a astronaut. I mean, and those who have the science and theories to explain all that, all the power to you. But until I'm able to get out in space and see it for myself, I'm still looking at it for myself from here, recreating that event. I can see the same thing when I zoom in on a star with a camera. So, is it possible that we're underwater?
Well, I mean, at this point, I believe anything is possible. And the fact that you said that about the star looking like, we're seeing it through like water, it looks like the portals. When portals open, that's what it looks like.
And that's just an interpretation of a visual piece of evidence. So when you see it, it appears to look like we're underwater, but that doesn't mean we're underwater. Right. But again, we trust what we see. And we also trust the science. But the interesting thing with the flat Earth movement is they spend a lot of time showing evidence on how the moon landing allegedly didn't actually happen and how the film was a hoax. So taking that logic when they're trying to prove that, what NASA is projecting and landing on the moon, that's how these conspiracy theories kind of come up with the whole idea. Well, if they lied about that, then maybe they're lying about this, and that's what makes us think. And the reason why people get mad and angry about the subject is not because of the possibility of it. It's just because they're starting to believe it a little bit, and they get mad about themselves, and they start fighting it. Because it makes sense to them. But if it makes sense to you enough, it means everything you've been told is a lie. And that's where people really get upset. And that's why I say social media gets mad about this, because they don't stick around past the whole, hey, the Earth may be flat comment. They
Mm-hmm.
turn everything off. But if you try to think about it, even if a combination, flat plane or a globe, eclipse or oblique, obloid, I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
word I was trying to find. Does it really matter what shape the Earth is?
Not to me, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't change. Does it matter if it's a ghost? Does it matter if it's a UFO, an extraterrestrial?
Not at all.
No, but something is making contact with you. Something is connecting with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so using that logic, the whole point that I'm trying to bring in with this segment is to show that that's just a really hard movement to say that everything is lying. But these people are no different than us trying to understand this phenomenon.
Right.
And if we work together trying to understand what is true, because they're also fighting to get answers from the government. That's what we have in common, is we need confirmation from the government.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we get that and we work together, then maybe we'll have answers too. And the
That would
flat
be
earthers
interesting.
have explanations on where these extraterrestrials come from. And they believe that the extraterrestrial, which is extra land, is just simply outside of the known world, which is what we're in. But
that's interesting.
It is
I've never heard that.
And it connects kind of the dots. But that doesn't mean that I believe that the Earth is flat.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I believe that the Earth is a globe either. When I look at the Miller projection, I know that's wrong. It's not completely accurate. It feels weird, and is a good way to explain to people how things work. But it's not right. That doesn't mean the flat Earth map is the correct one. That's just a view from the top. But then there's got to be some truth in the middle. And so that is kind of all in the mythology and connection of things. So when we come back to source, when the original explanation of where everything is coming from, the flat Earth model is also a way to explain the cosmos, a way to explain consciousness, a way to explain the universe. In reality, the flat Earth is actually referring to the universe, which is the universe is flat. It's linear. So what I'm going to kind of end on, for those who are listening, and I see you guys, we've talked about this before, as a new thing that I've learned, I'm starting to comprehend, is that the flat Earth model is not three-dimensional. It's interdimensional. It's layers, and it's consciousness. And then we can travel from one point to the other point. But again, theory, not a scientist, not an astronaut. So
I gotta put some thought into that.
Yeah,
I have heard about that, the flat Earth theory, but I've never really put any energy into it. I guess I don't care, that if it's flat or a sphere. To me, it seems like a sphere, because when I look out into the ocean, I can see a dome.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at the moon, it looks round. But other than that, it doesn't matter to me if it's triangular.
No, and the point that I'm always trying to make is that even when we have science that proves, the way that the world is, there's still a lot of people that disagree with it and have a lot of evidence to suggest and question what is being presented.
I feel that science is incomplete, though. At
science
one point,
it's not a fact, though.
No, but the thing with science is that at one point in history, science and spirituality were one, and then it got split. And you can't have them split. They have to come together. One is part of the other. And until that happens, I don't think that we're going to be able to get, clear answers, because we're separated.